Hello everyone, welcome to Chem Analysis. In this video, I will solve previous year physical chemistry questions that were asked for 2 marks in June 2019 CSR NET, and here I will solve 11 2-marker questions. So without further delay, let's start this discussion. And as we can see in the first question, it is given that the mobility of a divalent cation in water is 8 into 10 to the minus 8 meter square volt inverse second inverse. We have to calculate the effective radius of the ion. This is a very important question, and you have to just remember, or you have to just know the relation between the effective radius and mobility of the ion that is distributed in a viscous medium, or that is moving in a viscous medium. And the relation is, if the mobility is denoted as U, then it is related to the effective radius of the cation or ion, like this. This is the relation, and here U is the mobility of divalent cation and R is the effective radius. Now you can think that how this relation is coming. So let me discuss briefly how we can reach to this equation. When a ionic species moves in a viscous medium, there is a generation, or the ion reaches a velocity that is known as drift velocity. It is the average velocity of ionic species that is attained by them when they move in a viscous medium in presence of applied electrical field. That is the drift velocity is related to the applied electrical field and ionic mobility, like this. And from this we can write that ionic mobility is equal to drift velocity divided by applied electrical potential. Now when the ionic species moves in the viscous medium, two forces operates on that ion. One is the force generated due to applied field, and that is equal to, if the charge of the ionic species is Z and applied electric field is E, then the force acting on that ion is equal to Z into E into capital E. Here small e is the charge of the electron. And similarly, due to viscous medium, there is a force acting on the opposite side, that is known as retardation force. And from Stokes' law we can write that F retardation is equal to 6 pi eta r v, and v is the drift velocity, r is the radius of the ion. And when the ion reaches the drift velocity, these two forces will be equal, and we can write that 6 pi eta r v is equal to Z E capital E. And from this equation we can solve it like this: V by capital E will be equal to Z into E divided by 6 pi eta r. Here eta is the viscosity of the medium, and from this equation we can write that ionic mobility of the ion is equal to Z E 6 pi eta r, and this is the equation we are trying to reach. So if we put the value, that is E is the electronic charge 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb, and Z is the charge on the ion, that is, here since it is divalent cation it will be 2, and 6 pi eta, here you have to transform the viscosity, that is 1 centipoise, to its SI value. And for this I am just here erasing this thing. Now 1 centipoise is the centipoise or poise is the Celsius unit of viscosity. Since all the given value are in SI unit, so we have to transform this CGS unit to SI unit of viscosity, and we can write here 1 centipoise is equal to 0.1 poise. Now we know that 1 poise, or you can also solve this, that 1 poise is equal to 0.1 Pascal second, and this is the SI unit of viscosity. 1 poise in CGS unit is like this: 1 dyne second centimeter square, and if we convert this dyne centimeter in SI unit, that is 10 to the power minus 5 Newton divided by 10 to the power minus 4 meter square second, that is 0.1 Newton meter to the minus 2 second, and this is Pascal. Newton meter square, that means force per unit area, that is unit of pressure, and Newton meter to the minus 2 we can write it Pascal, and it is second, that is 1 poise is equal to 0.1 Pascal second. And you have to put this thing here, and since it is 1 centipoise, that means, and here it is 0.01 poise, that means we can write it as like this: 0.001 Pascal second, and we can convert this Pascal in Newton meter square, that is Newton meter to the minus 2 second. And if we put this value here, and this ionic mobility is given, that 8 into 10 to the minus 8, and if we put all the value, we can calculate from here the value of effective radius, that is R of the divalent cation, and it will come 2.12 into 10 to the power minus 10 meter, and we can convert it like this into 10 to the minus 12 meter, and 10 to the minus 12 meter means picometer, therefore it will be 212 picometer. So option number 2 will be the correct answer. So here I have discussed all the things, that how we can reach this, the relation between ionic mobility and effective radius of a ion. So now see next question, and this is a question from electrical double layer. You have to tell the electrical double layer model among the following that consists of both fixed and diffuse layer. Now to solve this question, first of all we have to know what is electrical double layer. When a colloidal charged colloidal particle, that is if a cationic colloidal particle is dissolved in a medium, there will be a generation of opposite layer that will be fixed on the colloidal charged particle, and there is similarly one layer that is diffuse at a distance from the colloidal particle, and that is not directly attached to the colloidal particle. There will be distribution of both cationic and anionic charge, and this layer that is attached to the colloidal particle is known as fixed layer. Such layer can also arise for a electrode, that is if there is positive electrode, then there will be fixed anionic layer, and similarly in the bulk of the solvent, bulk of the solution, there will be a layer that is where both cation and anion are distributed. And this layer will be known as fixed layer, and the layer after the fixed layer, that is in this case here and in this case here, it is known as diffuse layer. First of all, Helmholtz gave the concept of fixed layer, and next Gauss-Chapman gave the concept of diffuse layer, and by combining this concept of Helmholtz and Gauss-Chapman, later Stern gave the concept of both fixed and diffuse layer in case of colloidal solution or electrode dissolved in a electrolyte solution. So the concept of both fixed and double layer, that is electrical double layer, was given by scientist Stern, and it is known as Stern double layer concept. And one more important thing, here the fixed layer arises due to chemical adsorption of the opposite charge on the electrode surface or colloidal surface. That is, this is due to chemical adsorption. In case of diffuse layer, there is no such chemical adsorption. So this is one more important thing. So let's see next question. This is a question from solid state chemistry, and you have to tell the relation between the distance between two neighbor atoms. If both the atoms are same, then the distance, and if the radius is r of each atom, then the distance between two neighbor atom will be r plus r, that is 2r. And if both the atoms are different, for one radius is r plus and another the radius, and for another the radius is r minus, that is one is cation and another is anion, then we have to calculate the relation between r plus r minus and the side length of the crystal. And first of all, let me draw a cube, since here is given as face centered cube, body centered cube, primitive cube, and this is trigonal primitive, that is one of the type of 7 Bravais lattice system. And for this also, the side length of the cell, that is primitive cell, is equal to same, that is A equal to B equal to C. And first of all, let me draw a cubic system. And in all the cases, that is face centered, body centered or primitive cubic, there will be 8 atoms at the 8 corner of the cube. In case of primitive cubic cell, this will be the structure, and in such case all the atoms at the corner will touch each other. In this case, the distance between two neighboring atoms 2r will be the side length of the cube, that is A, and this is for primitive cubic. For body centered, there will be one atom at the body of the cube, and for that, if you find the relation, you will find that, and in such case the body centered atom will touch the two diagonal atoms, and in such case the relation between radius and side of the cube will be 4r equal to root 3a, and the distance between two neighbor atom will be this one, that is, this is also not the correct option. And for the face centered cube, there will be 6 atoms at the 6 face of the cube, and they will touch the corner atoms, that is, since there is 6 face, there will be 6 atoms, and all the atom will touch the corner atom. And in such case, if we just imagine one atom and erase the remaining face centered atom, if we consider this atom, and this corner atom and this corner atom will touch each other, similarly this corner atom and this corner atom will touch the face centered atom, and in this case the summation of the radius of the 3 atom, that is, for the middle atom the radius will be 2r, and for the corner atom each atom will contribute 1r, that is 4r is equal to root over 2a. That means the distance between two neighbor atom will be this by 2, that is a by root 2. So we can see that for face centered cubic lattice, the distance between two neighboring atom is equal to a by root 2, where a is the side length of the cube. So option number A is the correct, first option is the correct answer. And for trigonal primitive also, it will act like primitive cubic, and for that also the radius, the neighboring atom distance will be equal to side length of the cube, that is A. This is a question from quantum chemistry, and it is very easy question. You have to just put the value, and you have to calculate the energy level corresponding to n equal to 8. The general formula for energy of nth orbital is equal to this one. Here L is the length of the box, where it is given as 2L, so instead of L we have to put here, if we write it as L prime, in place of L prime we have to write 2L, that is and in place of n we have to put 8, that is 8 square a square divided by 8 m into 12 square, and 1 8 will be cancelled out, so it will be 8 a square divided by m 4m l square. So the energy for the 8th orbital will be 2a square divided by ml square. Option number 4 is the correct answer. Now in this question we can see that there is given 4 options and we have to tell about the correct option for ACL and DCL. The first option, it is given that DCL has a smaller 0 point energy than ACL. Now the 0 point energy for such harmonic oscillator, the formula for 0 point energy, that is E equal to half into h nu. Now in place of nu we can write like this, that is half into h 1 by 2 pi root over k by mu. K is the force constant and mu is the reduced mass. Now between DCL and ACL, force constant for DCL and ACL are similar. Since there is not so much electronegativity difference between deuterium and hydrogen, so force constant between ACL and DCL will be similar. But force constant reduced mass for DCL is greater than that of ACL. Since the formula for reduced mass is mu for DCL will be m into deuterium, m deuterium into m chlorine divided by m deuterium plus m of chlorine, and similarly mu HCl will be m hydrogen, that is atomic weight of one hydrogen atom and atomic weight of one chlorine atom, divided by mH plus mCl. And if you put all the value for deuterium, chlorine and hydrogen, you will get that mu DCl is greater than mu HCl. Now from this equation we can see that E is inversely proportional to root over of reduced mass. Since reduced mass of DCl is higher than that of reduced mass of HCl, 0 point energy of DCl will be less than that of 0 point energy of HCl. So it is clear that the first option is the correct answer. So let's see the next three options. In the second option, it is given that HCl has a smaller vibrational frequency than DCl. As here I have converted this vibrational frequency nu in terms of reduced mass, that is k by root over mu. Since force constant for HCl and DCl are same, mu is inversely proportional to the reduced mass of the molecule, and since reduced mass of DCl is higher than that of HCl, frequency of DCl will be less than that of frequency of HCl. It is wrongly given. And in the third option, the force constant of K of HCl bond is half that of DCl. It is also not correct, since there is no such electronegativity difference between hydrogen and deuterium, so force constant between HCl and DCl will be similar. The reduced mass of DCl is smaller than that of HCl. It is also not correct. Here it is asked that we have to tell about the entropy change when 1 mole of a monoatomic ideal gas is transformed from 300 Kelvin and 2 atmosphere to 600 Kelvin at 4 atmosphere pressure, and the change here the change is performing at constant volume. Such type of process can be performed in two ways, that is at constant volume when the temperature and pressure will be changed, or at constant pressure when temperature and volume will be changed. If the process is performed at constant pressure, and in that case the entropy change will be for n mole of monoatomic or diatomic whatever, for n mole of ideal gas, when the change is performed at constant volume. First of all I am writing when the process is performed at constant volume, as it is performed here. Then the formula will be NCP ln T2 by T1. T2 is the final temperature and T1 is the initial temperature, minus NR ln P2 by P1. You can also write it like this: NCP ln T2 by T1 plus NR ln P1 by P2. P2 is the final pressure, P1 is the initial pressure. Now, if the process is performed at constant pressure, that is, in that case volume will be changed, then the relation or then the formula for entropy change will be NCV ln T2 by T1 plus NR ln V2 by V1. Here V2 is the final volume, V1 is the initial volume. Now here we can see the process is performed at constant volume, so we have to use this equation, and if we put the value here n equal to 1, since 1 mole of ideal gas is taken, and the value for Cp for monoatomic ideal gas is 5 by 2R, and the value for Cv is 3 by 2R. Since for monoatomic gas gamma is Cp by Cv is equal to 5 by 3, that is 1.67, and the Cp minus Cv for 1 mole of gas, the formula is holding, that is Cp minus Cv equal to R. Now if you put the value for Cp, that is 5 by 2R, and here n equal to 1, so ln T2 means 600 Kelvin divided by 300 Kelvin, so it will be 2 minus 1 into R ln P2 means 4 atmosphere divided by 2 atmosphere, that is 2, and if we solve this, it will be 3 by 2 R ln 2. This is the entropy change for this process, and we can see that option number 1 is the correct answer. In this case, you have to tell about the allowed transition among these given 4 options. And for solving this, first of all, you have to know the selection rule for such atomic transition. The first condition, first selection rule will be delta S equal to 0. Second is delta L will be plus minus 1, and if the J value is given, then the third condition for selection rule is delta J equal to plus minus 1. Now you have all these 3 conditions should be satisfied for a fruitful atomic transition. Now for the first case, we can see here it is 2s plus 1, that is S equal to 1 for both the 2 cases, and delta S equal to 0. For the second case, delta S not equal to 0, so it will be cancelled out, and for the remaining 2 cases, delta S is equal to 0. Okay, next delta L. For F, L equal to 3, and for D, L equal to 2. So for the first case, delta L equal to minus 1, so plus minus 1 condition is satisfying. For the third case, since for P, L equal to 1, so delta L for the third transition will be minus 2, so it will be cancelled out. For the fourth case, since here is also since here the transition is also occurring between F and D, it will satisfy this condition, that is delta L is equal to plus minus 1, so it can be also allowed. And there is also another condition, that is delta J should be plus minus 1. For the first case, delta J is equal to minus 1, but for the fourth case, delta J equal to minus 2, so this will not be allowed. Therefore, we can say that the allowed transition for this atomic system is the first one, that is 3F4 to 3D3. Is it okay? It is very simple, just you have to check the condition for the selection rule for atomic transition. Now in this question it is asked you have to tell about the symmetry elements for diboron molecule. Let me draw the structure of diboron molecule. So this will be the structure for diboron, that is B2H6. It is a dimer of boron, that is BH3, and by forming this structure BH3 attains octet. Now in this case we have to first of all let me see how many symmetry element can be possible in this diboron system. Here you can see that you can consider principal axis passing through this, and that principal axis will be C2, that is 1 C2, and similarly there will be two C2 axes that are perpendicular to this principal axis, and one is passing like this C2 and one is perpendicular to this C2 axis that will pass along this axis, that will go. You can imagine by yourself, that is there will be two C2 axes perpendicular to this principal axis. Similarly there will be two sigma V plane that will contain this C2 axis. One sigma V plane will pass along this and one sigma V plane will pass along this. You can think by yourself that both the two sigma V plane will contain the principal C2 axis, and one will be perpendicular to this principal axis, that will contain this boron, this hydrogen atom, similarly this boron atom, this hydrogen atom, and this hydrogen atom, and that sigma plane will be the molecular plane, that is sigma H, and similarly there will be one inversion center, and at last there will be one identity element. And as we see that there is in total 8 symmetry elements. And if you want to know the point group, it will be D2H. Since here is principal axis C2, there is two perpendicular C2 axis, so for this there will be D2, there is two sigma V plane and one sigma H plane, so therefore it will be D2H. So you can see here option number 4 is the correct answer. This is a question from statistical thermodynamics. Here I am solving this question. Later I will upload one separate video on previous year questions on statistical thermodynamics of CSIR NET and GATE questions. Here first you just have to know the formula for rotational partition function. That is, the formula for rotational partition function for nonlinear molecule is 8 pi square I kt divided by sigma h square to the power 3 by 2 for nonlinear molecule. And if it is for linear molecule, the relation will be this one, 8 pi square I kt divided by sigma h square for linear molecule. Okay, here all the given molecules are linear, so this equation will be applied for this for molecule. Now sigma, since all the molecules are homodiatomic molecules, so sigma will be similar for all the 4 molecules. H is constant, 8 pi square, K and T, all these parameters are constant except I. I is the moment of inertia, that is equal to mu r square. Therefore from this equation we can say that rotational partition function is proportional to reduced mass of the molecule and the square of the distance between a axis and the center of the atom, that is r. Now the order of reduced mass will be mu h2 is less than mu Li2 less than mu n2 less than mu f2. Therefore, rotational partition function order will be like this, and for H2 the rotational partition function is expected to be the smallest one. So this will be the correct answer. This question was asked from chemical kinetics. It is given that if the half-life of a reaction is inversely proportional to the square of the concentration of the reactant, we have to tell about the order of the reaction. That is, we know the relation between T half and concentration of reactant is equal to this one, T half proportional to 1 by A to the power n minus 1, where n is the order of the reaction. Now here it is given that T half is inversely proportional to square of the concentration of the reactant. Therefore, n minus 1 is equal to 2, and we can solve it. That is n equal to 3. That is order of the reaction is 3. That is, it is a third order reaction. Now this is the last question for this discussion, and here we have to say about the relation between the degree of polymerization n and the fraction of monomer consumed, that is P, for a polymerization reaction. If the total number of monomer it is equal to 1, the amount of unreacted monomer, that is which are not consumed, unreacted monomer will be 1 minus P, and therefore degree of polymerization will be total number of monomer divided by unreacted monomer. So this will be the relation between degree of polymerization n and fraction of monomer consumed in a polymerization reaction. So option number 1 is the correct answer. And that's all for this discussion. If you like this video, you can also share it with your friends, and if you are new in this channel, then please visit and subscribe my channel Chem Analysis to get such interesting videos. Thank you.